All right. It's semi-finals time. We've got Denby Adams and Chris Shah that we covered in the first match. Chris Shah took out the first match against Manny.
Yeah, with his the big Teamer Energy deck, and Denby's on the pretty standard ramming up red list.
Yes, this is going to be something.
Crashes.
This is going to be something new for this coverage. So, Paddy, you want to take us through what Denby's going to be looking at trying to do?
No, so Denby's playing the mono red deck, the ramming up red that won Pro Tour. I believe it was Pro Tour. Amonkhet, yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe it was
Maybe
Pro
Hour
Tour.
of Devastation. Yeah.
Maybe it was Hour of Devastation, actually.
It was with Ramming Up Ruins.
Yeah,
because
of course,
that was when it was printed.
Ramming Up Ruins, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is a deck that's been around for a while. It's a mono red deck, so it's an aggressive creature deck with a lot of like reach and burn spells that come in the forms of both cards like Lightning Strike and Shock, but also from your lands. Sun Scorched Desert and Ramming Up Ruins have the ability to kind of deal the last few points of damage to kind of close the game out after you've gotten up to a fast start, but your opponent's stabilized.
I believe the Arncrop Crash has come up for a bit of speculation for its involvement in this deck, hasn't it? Since,
well, we've been having a few people say
Excellent.
in their testing they prefer the Rampaging Ferocidons in the same slot to hedge up your Teamer Energy matchup.
Yeah.
So we might see the Rampaging Ferocidons, which Denby has 4 of in his sideboard, come out for Game 2.
Yeah.
But Game 1, Chris Shah is on the play, starting with his...
That's a
Rootbang
Crag?
Soulscar Mage? Is it?
Soulscar Mage.
So Denby's on the bottom and Chris is on the
Denby's
top.
on the bottom.
Yeah.
So
We'll
Denby
get there.
has
We have-
the turn 1 Soulscar Mage.
We've leveled up here, by the way, but look at this life totals and the cards on the screen.
Just imagine that Denby's name is at the bottom and Chris's is at the top.
Oh, okay. I see what's going on now. All right, what's
so
happening
Chris
now?
has started off with the Servant of the Conduit on turn 2, which Denby's immediately shocked. It's gone to the graveyard. Being more mana efficient as opposed to saving the prowess trigger
And
from
here's
the
your
Soulscar
own
Mage.
crop crasher.
Look, Uncrop Crash is just a very powerful and a
Yeah,
threat
like-
that's important to this deck. I think
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
But
I
in
would be
standard, it's competition for spots, isn't it? You know, it's a good card, but is it good
you
enough?
can only have so many 3-drops, but like I think in general, Uncrop Crash is going to be better.
I think I would start with Uncrop Crasher if I was playing mono red today. I think that its Falter effect is just too powerful to ignore, as well as the fact that it has haste. Yes, Rampaging Ferocidon's a powerful card and has applications where it's good, but I think that just your plan is so much more coherent when you have Uncrop Crasher. Your opponent can't just cast a 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinker, so Gifted Aetherborn, and have it
stabilize
stabilize the
itself.
board by itself. Uncrop Crasher just makes it a liability.
And the advantage of the Rampaging Ferocidon against something like Whirl of Virtuoso, you know, it's the...
Yeah, it is. It's like every time, but you're still preventing damage from creating blockers. So taking that 1 damage is just like it's incidentally good.
Yeah.
But it's not game breaking by itself.
No.
So Chris is firmly on the back foot in this game. The Uncrop Crasher stayed in play and it hasn't had to exert at all.
Yeah.
Both of Chris's creatures have been cleared out by a Shock and a Braid, and we're just getting a bunch of damage through at this point in time. This is a spot that the red deck wants to get into because, outside of a limited number of threats, Whirl of Virtuoso and Bristling Hydra, any creature Chris plays here is essentially obsoleted by the Uncrop Crasher for a turn.
Yeah.
So here we've got
Long-Tusk Cub, but with
Long-Tusk
6 energy backup, so it could be a 5/5 practically at
but
any time.
a 5/5 that can't block.
They can't block with
tap it
Uncrop
down.
Crasher, exactly.
So, at this
he's-
stage, is Denby thinking about
Well, Denby
playing...
just lightning striked him in the face at the turn. He doesn't
Yeah.
even need it to clear out blockers anymore because he realizes that he's in this position where he
Yeah.
can just seal the game.
I was going to ask about the desert. So is Denby now going to be thinking, I'm going to prioritize playing deserts over any other...
Well, yeah, you're just going to play your deserts like Sun Scorched Desert. He just played there to ping him down to 8. He's hitting him for another 4 with the Exert to put him down to 5, and
Oh,
he's just
scooped.
sealed the game. He can't get out of the double deserts with the ramming up ruins. There's no way for the Teamer Energy deck to gain life to get out of that hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You see red deck on the play there, leading off with the 1-drop, following it up with a couple of removal spells for creatures that weren't particularly sticky threats from the Teamer deck. So sticky threats being creatures that are difficult to interact with, like Bristling Hydra, or things that leave extra cards behind, like Whirl of Virtuoso. Rather it was just a couple of Servant of the Conduits, got cleared out, damage was dealt, and then. Even though Chris may not have been dead on that turn, on that direct attack, the fact that there was multiple deserts in play, sufficient mana to activate Ramming Up Ruins, essentially made the game over in a matter of turns that he couldn't possibly hope to close.
So there's no way for the Teamer Energy deck to destroy the Ramming Up Ruins or stop that damage being dealt. So if Chris is on 4 life. There's no way that he can get out.
That's an
of it.
end-step activation and untap and activate in my turn.
Perfect.
That's
So
what
we're,
damage straight.
so we're doing sideboarding now. So what have we seen from that first match? That say, do you want to take Chris and you want to take Denby? Do you want to tell us what what's Chris going to be thinking about?
Chris's sideboard has 2 Chandra's defeat that are definitely going to come in to deal with all of the every single red threat apart from Hazoret in the deck and Bomat Curry obviously.
Yep.
You got Magma Spray again, which is going to be useful against those creatures with 2 power or less. That's probably they're both going to be coming in. You may bring in the Death Gorge Scavenger just to have another threat on the board that also gains you some life when it enters play. And then maybe the Abrade just as a little bit more
Protection against
creature
the prediction.
removal.
Yeah. And Paddy, what do you think? Who would go doing?
So that was Chris's, the teamer sideboard.
Yeah, so from Denby's position as a mono-red player, I'm on the draw in game 2. Mono-red decks have a difficult time sideboarding, both because their sideboards tend to not be particularly flexible. You're a mono-colored deck, and you don't have a wide variety of answers. You basically have direct damage, and you can change your creature suite. Those are the 2 things that you can do. What Denby needs to recognize here is it's much harder for him to get off to a fast start, and he needs to not over-sideboard. He needs to not dilute his plan too much, but he also needs to answer specific things from the Teamer Energy deck.
You can't just bring in a whole bunch of 4 and 5 drops and expect your deck to be a coherent.
You can raise your curve a little bit. You could maybe cut cards like Soulscar Mage and try and go up the curve with your Glory Bringers. And I would recommend bringing a Glory Bringer in this matchup, and I believe he will. Whether it comes at the cost of the 1-drop or not is another story. Rampaging Ferocidon seems like a card designed for this matchup because it helps you interact with your most difficult, their most powerful threat in.
But you're cutting 1s as opposed to other 3s.
I think that this is the issue that you raised. You can't just go cut my Soulscar Mages, cut my Bomat Couriers,
Put in a bunch of 3s and 4 drops.
Bring in 3 drops, 4 drops, 5 drops. You can't go doing stuff like that. What you have to do is you have to keep your curve tight because you're still not going to win the game by just you're playing your first threat on turn 3. You need a reliable mana curve. So I think that I'm trying to avoid over-sideboarding in this instance. I'm going to be looking to bring in Glory Bringers and Rampaging Ferocidons, probably at the cost of some number of Uncrop Crashes and Soulscar Mages. Raising the curve a little bit, but not going overboard. I don't know how much I like Chandra Torture Defiance in this matchup. A lot of it depends on how much. I think maybe on the play I would keep Chandra in because it's much harder for Chris to be on the front foot at any point in time.
Yep.
But in game 2, it's possible that Chris goes 2-drop, 3-drop. Or turn 1 Magma Spray, your threat, 2-drop, 3-drop, and you're in a position where he's able to attack your Chandra on turn 4 when you play it. That said, I'm inclined to keep Chandra in and maybe look to bring in some more if I have space.
Let's see what happened. Let's just discuss a little bit what happened in game 1. So Chris Shah played no Attune with Aether on turn 1. He played Servant of the Conduit, which got cleared out, and then on turn 3 he played another Servant of the Conduit. Do you think he was just waiting to see? Did he have multiple Glory Bringers in hand, and he's just trying to ramp them out as soon as possible to start clearing out his threats?
That's certainly one sort of hand that I would consider keeping in that matchup. It's
multiple servants with the 5 drops.
Yeah, I don't know because I presume that Chris knows his matchup coming into this match because it's a very small tournament. There's only 8 players today. He doesn't necessarily have deck lists, but I think he knows that he's playing against a red deck. It's difficult for me to judge what his opening hand would be, but it'd be also very hard for me to consider mulliganing a hand that had multiple Servants of the Conduit. I'm on multiple Servants of the Conduit, the mana to play them, and then something to do with my mana at the end of it.
Yeah.
So presumably it's a card like Glory Bringer, since we didn't see him
actually cast it. Yeah.
But is he keeping 5? Is he keeping 5 land 2 Servant? I don't think so.
No,
I think I would mulligan that hand.
Yeah.
So did Denby just mulligan then? Is that what happened?
It looks like Denby's mulliganing in this game.
Yeah.
Because I think Chris mulliganed in game 1.
Okay.
On the mulligan, maybe I'm more inclined to keep 2 Servant 4 land. Just because any creature you draw, maybe you get to cast it ahead of curve, and that's great for you.
Well, there's only the 4s that you can really cast ahead of curve, which is your Chandras.
Yes, but it's still committing the board. It's also Hydras. You could play a 3-drop and cast another spell, maybe, or another 2-drop. You could maybe cast your second Servant and a removal spell that you draw.
Chris just tuned with Aether there, just to get a bit of.
And Denby's got the 1-drop again, so we didn't board out the Soulscar Mages, so we still got the aggressive package, but on the draw this time.
Oh, he's on the front foot. He's a game in front, so perhaps he's just thinking, right, I'm just going to force the issue.
The Chris on Teamer passing on turn 2, possibly having a removal spell. He's just taking the 1 from the Soulscar Mage.
Got a bit of energy from Aether Hub.
And following it up with a second Soulscar Mage here.
Yeah. So many scars, so many souls.
I think this is interesting from Denby. I wonder if he did have in fact had a better quality 2-drop to play, but he recognized that his opponent probably clearly has like a Harness Lightning removal or an Aether and a Braid, and just kind of forces his opponent to cast it on a card that is less desirable, a card like a second Soulscar Mage.
It's pretty threatening to have 2 prowess things out and then go shock your guy, Lightning Strike you. You're going to take 6 plus 3 from the thing.
Yeah, it can get out of hand relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Chris is on the board in this game with the Rogue Refiner, put him up to 4 energy from his Attune and stuff as well, and the Ferocidon from Denby.
And that extra card now from Rogue Refiner after Denby's had to mulligan as well, this feels like it's just a little bit of extra options, more options.
Yeah, like this is the strength of the Teamer list, which is that all of every card that it draws is going to be relevant as the game goes on, apart from something like Attune with Aether.
And it feels like that when you play it as well, doesn't it? And Rampaging Ferocidon makes an appearance from the sideboard.
Chris debating his plays. He's probably got at least 1 4 or 5 drop here to play, but you can't really afford to attack with the Rogue Refiner because you're going to take a bunch on the backswing.
Yeah, attacking with the Rogue Refiner is kind of not an option unless he has absolutely no creature to play and he thinks that it's better for him to get on the front foot. If I had lots of Glory Bringers and no other creature to play, maybe I would attack with the Rogue Refiner because I can't block Ferocidon. It has Menace.
Yes,
but he's good to back up with something else to block it.
Look, if I have another blocker, then I'm definitely just playing it.
Or if you got a Bristling Hydra, you could play that.
yeah, there you go. But leaving the Rogue Refiner and the Hydra back,
this is forced. Yeah, leaving the Rogue Refiner back here forces Denby to be burning off a removal spell on Rogue Refiner, or he can't attack. He's a second Ferocidon, taking 1 himself from his original Ferocidon.
Yeah.
So now everything that Teamer plays, if they play a Whirl of Virtuoso, you can't really make Thopters. You're going to be taking 2 per thing that you play. Chris is extremely defensive now because Denby's got these 2 menace threats that require 1 removal spell to get an attack with both of them.
You can see a Magma Spray lurking in Chris's hand, not really able to interact with the Ferocidon.
Yep.
It's one of the benefits of that card. If people are bringing in lots of cards like Magma Spray, then you just get the jump on them and playing a 3 toughness creature in Ferocidon.
Yeah. So do you want to unwrap that? So Magma Spray doing... Why can't you have Magma Spray hurt Rampaging Ferocidon?
I mean, you can cast it on Rampaging Ferocidon, but it won't kill it.
It's just 2 damage.
Yeah, that's what I was driving for. It's just the 2 damage, So
we've got an Abrade, presumably targeting Rogue Refiner. We're going to have a spray in response to the Prowess trigger on the Soulscar Mage. And then Chris is going to cast a Supreme Will, I believe. Removing an energy that uses Aether Hub. Supreme Will probably just going to counter the Abrade. Because keeping his Rogue Refiner here prevents 6 damage.
Yeah, because the menace, obviously, from the Ferocidons means
and
that
now
he needs to keep 2.
Now Denby's has to decide whether or not he wants to sacrifice a Ferocidon and deal 3 damage, which he doesn't, and I agree with.
Yeah. Chris still on an extremely high life total. So as Chris would be feeling very good in this situation.
I'm feeling quite good, though my position is somewhat tenuous. I know that he has another Bristling Hydra in hand, because we've seen it in his hand, and I think it's probably worth taking 2 damage, and he's definitely going to play it here. By attacking with Rogue Refiner, he's signaling that, hey, I don't really care about Rogue. I don't need to keep Rogue Refiner back to block, so I'm just going to play second Bristling Hydra here to have two blockers that you can never kill.
Hex-proof.
Yeah, potentially hex-proof blockers that you can never kill, and so therefore you can never attack with your Rampaging Ferocidons. And by getting on the front foot with Rogue Refiner, when Denby tries to develop his board, he still takes damage from his Rampaging Ferocidons. So he's going to get work Denby's life total down to the point where Denby kind of finds it difficult to augment his board, but also finds it difficult to push damage through. So
because these Hydras, this is where the Hydras are really
They're not great attackers. They're brick walls in this instance. But eventually, after chipping away for a few damage with Rogue Refiner, he's just going to be able to turn him sideways.
Exactly.
And he's got about 10 energy there, has he got?
10 energy, which is 3 activations split between the Hydras. So any way that they block the Ferocidons, the Ferocidon's going to die, the Hydras are going to live.
Yeah, it's essentially impossible for him to kill Bristling Hydra at this point in time, and Denby's kind of drawing slim on ways to end this game. Yeah. He probably has to commit to removing that Rogue Refiner at some point in time. Otherwise, it's just going to deal the full 20 to him.
Yep.
But he's, the pressure the small amount of pressure that it's applying is really making it difficult for Denby to augment, to develop his board here. And also, he's stuck on 3 lands, so his haymaker cards that could go over the top of cards like Bristling Hydra, like Glorybringer, stuck in his hand.
Mm-hmm. And also, he's going to take 2 damage from whatever happens in Team as kind of the aggressor now at this point in the match.
Team is definitely the aggressor at this point. As you can see,
He's just turning them sideways because he recognizes that Denby doesn't have great blocks on anything. And he's stuck with what appears to be 4 drops in his hand. Otherwise, he probably would have played some spells already.
This does not bode well for Denby, in case you didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're playing mono red and your opponent just decides they're just going to send in all the clowns, like you know that there's something big coming to follow up, but B, you don't have a hope in hell of racing.
Mm-hmm. So he's just pumped one of the Hydras.
I mean, no blocks, is potentially 10, 13 damage. Denby would go to 4.
Yeah. Look, Denby had 2 options there. He could opt to take it, or he could opt to double block one of the Bristling Hydras. Double blocking one of the Bristling Hydras essentially condemns both of them to death. Mm-hmm. It's probably a lose-lose situation here, let's be perfectly honest. And here's Rogue Refiner. No,
so
it's
Death Gorge.
Oh, the Death Gorge Scavenger, okay. This is putting the game a little bit further out of reach.
Yeah. So, like, you feel pretty good as Chris right now because you get an attack. Denby's like, oh, maybe I'll keep these guys back. I won't double block.
Yeah.
But then Chris just gains a bunch of life. He's got a blocker back with. Oh well, he won't be able to block the menace guys. But
then you've
the
got
Death
nothing
Gorge
to
Scavenger's
block.
going to gain you life every time it attacks, and Denby's on 3. So
Denby's 4th land a little bit too late here.
Well, isn't the life gain is taken care of by the Rampaging Frost?
yes, yeah, correct. Yeah. Sorry,
but
Doubly
still, I
taken
mean,
care of.
doubly taken.
Chris isn't too worried about his own
He just
life
wanted to
total
get
right now.
creature on the board, I guess.
So this will probably be just about it, won't it?
Yep. 2 chump blocks. The most satisfying of all blocks, and then
There
a
you
concession
go.
from
And the
Denby.
concession. So we're going to big game 3. This is going to be quite tight. The red deck's on the play. He's seen how Chris's deck shapes up.
This is one of the issues with the sideboarding plans for these red decks. Is there's no cheap cards for Denby to cast in that game. He cast 2 Ferocidons, sure, and he cast some Soulscar Mages, but then his hand was stuck full of 4 and 5 mana spells that didn't impact the game because he didn't draw very many lands. And you can't always rely on getting off to it. If you dilute your curve too much, you can't always rely on getting off to a good start. If Denby had just had 1, 2, 3 mana cards to cast from his hand in that game, I would hazard a guess that he would have won quite easily.
Yeah.
If he just removed that Rogue Refiner.
It's a completely different
It's an
game.
entirely
If
different
you
game.
could interact with that Rogue Refiner immediately.
Yeah, because your Ferocidons can both attack, and then Chris is unable to get aggressive, get on the front foot against you.
And you never get to really set up behind those bristling Hydra brick walls, as you were
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
So, but these are 2 pretty standard decks, standard decks. So there's no surprises here for either of them. Now they'll play tested against
but
these
this
decks.
is the sign of a good standard format to me, which is that there's very interesting decisions to be made when you're on the play, when you're on the draw. Even if you've played this matchup 10 times, 15, 20 30 times.
You can see the sideboarding changing right now.
Yeah, because it's different. If Denby's on the play, he wants to come at it very aggressively, but Chris recognizes that on the draw, and he's going to bring in stuff to respond to that.
But Denby hasn't seen anything from Chris that he wouldn't have expected to have seen from that deck.
There's no surprises here, but your plan can definitely change on the play versus the draw. Maybe I was off in my estimate that he would take out Soulscar Mage, but perhaps he cut Bomat Courier. Bomat Courier is very hard to get to turn into something useful if your opponent's played a 2-drop and a 3-drop. And you have
World of Virtuosos kind of
it doesn't really do very much against Teamer on some level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is the best way for Denby to deal with something like the Bristling Hydra then?
You don't deal with it. You just you obsolete it by killing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you play around.
Ferocidon is a fine way of kind of circumventing it a little bit. In the sense that
you kill the extra thing for the menace, and then you get in for
it
some
doesn't
menace
block.
attacks. But
it's not threatening if its only role is attacking. But outside of maybe Harsh Mentor for punishing them for activating it is another way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I think that's quite unreliable, and the creature size does not match up very well at all in this matchup.
And the other, the Long Tusk Cub, which we saw Chris playing in the first match, the best way to deal with that is just to burn its face as soon as it hits the deck.
Answer it before it gets out of control.
Yeah.
the later the game goes, it's such a viable top deck. You could see in that situation where he had two Bristling Hydras out, which are great defensively because they're hexproof and they're big power and toughness. But if you just draw a Long Tusk Cub there, that's just a threat that you can kill them with, and you can just leave your Hydras back.
And you've
forever.
got 10 energy sitting to one side to sort of make
yeah.
a bulletproof
so you just
to your
make
burn
a
spells.
7/7 anytime you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less about what it actually is and what it represents. You know, the Hydras don't have hexproof, but the threat of hexproof. The card may only be a 2/2, but it has a threat of being a 5/5. It's very hard to interact with like that.
And that's what you guys were saying about this Teamer Energy deck, is that all these cards have a value later on. You can draw long toss card, a 2-mana 2/2 late in the game, and it's still going to be fine because you just
as opposed to if you draw Soulscar Mage late in the Ramunap deck and you're like, this is not what I want to see. You generally throw it to Hazoret if you possibly can. You don't even bother putting it on the board.
Oh, let's see if these guys can draw 7 cards and just play with
them.
Have
a excellent game 3.
Yeah.
Denby going to Paris, going to 6. Chris keeping a 7 though by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Denby's on the play, isn't he?
Denby will be on the play this game, so he's looking for a very specific set of things. I think he's looking at 100% mulliganing to a 1-drop here because that's his best chance of getting ahead and staying ahead.
Yeah,
like you can't keep a 7 with like 3 lands, 2 3-drops, and a 4-drop. You just can't.
I would not keep 3 land removal spell, Rampaging Ferocity, and Chandra Glorybringer. I would not keep
it's not tending towards you being the aggressor in the matchup.
I just wouldn't keep that hand. I just don't think you can afford to do that.
I know that One Chin, who played in one of the matches we didn't see, said that she was playing off what she drew a hand, had 1 land in it.
Yeah, and strategically, she thought that it was going to do good work for her with 2 1-drops. And if you draw your land, you can curve out and be the aggressor there. But no 1-drop from Denby on the play after his mulligan.
I mean, on 6 cards, you can't really be as picky as you would be on 7. One of the advantages to mulliganing aggressively in these red decks, especially mulliganing a 7 aggressively, is because when you get a good draw, it's very easy for you to obsolete that card disadvantage that you're at. Like if your opponent doesn't get to cast all the cards in their hand, they essentially didn't draw them.
Practically, yeah.
It's basically like them discarding those cards if the game is over before they get to cast them. But here you see land go from Denby, a Lightning Strike to take out Servant of Conduit. So he's probably got a 3-drop to follow it up.
Yeah. So he's had to go for the more mid-rangey kind of hand.
He's taken what he gets.
With the mulligan. So up to 5 energy from Chris Shah now.
Rampaging Frostodon's landed.
Nothing to do with it. That's not casting Will of Virtuoso. There is kind of a sigh of relief for Denby.
Denby, you can actually get him with. Frostodon's eaten a Harness Lightning.
If he has a Chandra to follow up here or a Hazoret. He's tapping
Harness Lightning just used the energy that it came in with, so
4 mana tapping 4.
It's a Hazoret. So he's got enough cards in hand that it couldn't attack this turn, otherwise we would have played it pre-combat, I imagine. But that's a good card to have in play in this situation.
Yeah.
So Death Gorge Scavenger exiling thing to put Chris back up to 21.
So Hazoret's landed. Chris is thinking, how am I going to deal with that?
Yeah, Hazoret is the big kind of payoff for dumping your hand this early, and I think Denby would have been pretty excited to just get it on the board and guarantee it, because Teamer doesn't have a fantastic way of getting rid of it.
It doesn't have a fantastic way of dealing with it outside of a card like Whirl of Virtuoso, but fortunately for Chris, he's at 20 life, or 20-plus life in this situation. So it's not the end of the world that that Denby has Hazoret in play, but Rampaging Ferocity in play. It's going to make Whirl of Virtuoso a less viable way of answering Hazoret in the long term. But he has a little bit of time to either end the game, or Chris has time to end the game himself, or to set up behind something powerful.
So for every Thopter that he wants to create.
I saw Glyph Keeper in Chris Shah's hand there. So Chris Shah seems to have bought it into even more big threats if we thought that he was going to be keeping Glorybringer in. Glyph Keeper is a 5/3 for 3 blue that when it becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time in a turn, you counter it. Okay. So it's practically immune to the first removal that you pointed at in a turn.
And also the first Falter effect.
Also the first Uncrop Crasher effect or something as well.
Right.
So...
This is Bristling Hydra to go along with, I believe it's another Bristling Hydra?
That's on the board at the moment.
There's 2 Bristling Hydras. There's a glaring white card and a Bristling Hydra to me. But I believe that's 2 Bristling Hydras.
We call them planes.
He's just put acetone on a foil and put it on the battlefield.
So
Chris's hand is like Rogue Refiner's Lightning Strikes Glyph Keeper, so he's going to have a pretty commanding view of the late game if he gets there.
Yeah, right? Denby's not winning the late game, but if he can empty his hand and get that Hazoret attacking right now, he might be in okay shape.
What's that? 8 energy from Chris Shah. So to pump Bristling Hydra to be able to put it in front of Hazoret, he needs 3 pumps out of it. So just 1 more energy.
Yeah.
So this is the
kind
of
blocking with a huge wall of Hydra. But not even chunk block.
Yeah.
It's
just absorbing the indestructible.
This is a situation that Denby needs to take advantage of. This is the last kind of window for him to get a chunk of damage in with Hazoret. Here we go.
Okay, so you guys are saying now that this is Denby's moment. If he's not going to exert...
that was the Death Gorge Scavenger. It
was a Death Gorge Scavenger. My apologies. Yeah. Oh, that's a much better spot. to be perfectly honest.
So Denby was actually able to get in that attack with the Hazoret and the Rampaging Ferocidon with the Menace and the Indestructible from Hazoret.
So he discarded a spare copy of Hazoret in his hand to deal 2 damage to get it out of his hand, and then he Lightning Strike the Death Gorge Scavenger and got in for 8 damage. That's a 10 damage turn. That's a really great spot for Denby.
Was this... Oh, yeah, there we go. There's the scores going down.
Chris life total updating. So this is what needed to happen on that turn for Denby to have a chance
to feel
in this
like
game.
He's still in this game, right?
Yeah, because one more energy kind of makes the Hazoret unable to block, and the prospect of dealing 20 damage over 10 turns, essentially, with the discard ability on Hazoret is kind of not ever really going to happen.
So Chris Shah trying to get his 5th land for that, probably the Glyph Keeper, to just kind of stabilize behind it and the
what he's really
Hydra.
hoping to do is draw another land here and be able to cast Harness Lightning on Rampaging Ferocidon immediately.
Yes.
But he's drawn a land, but it's tapped land. So 5 mana spells are coming out next turn. He's got 2 blockers for the Rampaging Ferocidon.
He also drew a Well of Virtuoso for the turn as well. But he really wanted to hit that 3-drop and a Harness Lightning, which would have swung the tempo a bit back in his favor.
Yeah, I still think he's in a good fine spot here. He can just dump his energy into Bristling Hydra to hold off Hazoret here. It'll be interesting to see whether or not, now that 5 mana's been hit,
Denby's just passed.
Denby's just hoping to throw things at the head with Chandra, with Hazoret at this point in time.
Oh, he's going to go full Ramen Up Red in a second, is he?
I think so. Like he's put Chris to 9. So between Hazoret activations, discarding cards, Ramen Up Ruins, we see the Harness Lightning on the Ferocidon there. So, which will clear the way for Chris to be able to play a Whirl of Virtuoso without taking the damage from it.
The game is going to be ending quickly here, though, unfortunately for Denby. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to activate his Hazoret 8 and 9. They're the 5 times required to deal the last 10 damage, and especially now that the Rampaging Ferocidon's gone, so there's no incidental damage coming in.
Discarded an Earthshaker Kenra, which could possibly get
he just top deck a land,
eternalized, and come in, stop something from blocking.
It's actually it's quite a powerful blocker on this board. The only problem is he can't attack with his Hazoret. His Hazoret is just sitting back at this spot. And he has to
Virtuoso can just spit out chump
and that and the Hydra could possibly be big enough to block it with impunity.
So if Denby's got any chance to winning, he's got to be doing Burning to the Face, discarding cards to burn, throwing Desert Stadium, that sort of thing.
He needs to delay the game. He needs to buy time. And right now he's buying a bit of time, but it's interesting that Chris decided to play Whirl of Virtuoso last turn. I think I probably would have just opted to play Glyph Keeper. And although, no, he cast the Harness Lightning as well.
Oh,
which is,
he didn't have the 5 mana to
casting Harness,
well.
Killing the Ferocidon and then casting the Whirler is better than just casting the Glyph Keeper. I forgot about the Harness Lightning that he cast.
Looks like Chris is doing some maths. That's a maths hand if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
He's counting.
So he's got like a lot of threats on the board. Now you've got the Hydra, but do you attack with it? You have
this is end of turn, I believe, for Chris. He's just debating whether or not he wants to throw another Thopter into play. And now he's deciding whether or not he's got a window to send them all in. So he's making 3 Thopters end of turn. It's interesting. The Thopters aren't racing particularly fast, but if everything comes in at a pivotal moment,
this is kind of, you've got to pre-plan your next 2 or 3 turns. Make sure you get enough to kill him.
I at least want to be. I at least want to have the first 2 turns mapped out in my head, because maybe 2 draw steps can change the game significantly. But interestingly enough, though, the Hydra's now vulnerable. It doesn't have Hexproof available to it because he's only got 1 energy.
But you just got to hope that, Denby doesn't draw the Lightning Strike on the immediate turn that you need it.
Yeah, Denby's going to have to draw Lightning Strike or Glorybringer to win this game, I think. I think you have enough time to just kind of send you guys around Hazoret while leaving enough blockers back to deal with the Earthshaker Kenra plus the...
It's the life totals that are so interesting here, because Chris is... Denby's got a bit of a buffer, but Chris is so kind of on the edge, isn't he, with the threats that Denby could get.
It takes 2 big hits from Chris's board, which is now blowing up.
Yeah, Denby's 2 turns from dead. Yeah, just the Earthshaker Kenra is the only thing that's kind of keeping Chris from just turning everything sideways and just leaving 1 blocker back for Hazoret here. He kind of needs to make sure he goes about this carefully. And Denby,
he's just gone for the safe attack, 3 Thopters to put him to 16.
I think I like that at this point in time. You've got enough time, especially because you're going to play Glyph Keeper here.
As the Ramen of Red player, would not be expecting the Glyph Keeper. Denby's going to read it.
I wouldn't be expecting it too much either, but it's good. It's invulnerable to Uncrop Crasher, which is a powerful place to be.
And also, if he thinks he's going to make relatively conservative attacks, he can do Glyph Keeper and Thopters, kill him over 2 turns, 8 and an 8.
Yeah, because he's put Denby to 16 here with his attack for 3 Thopters, and now he's just going to go 8-8 and kill him with no
Denby got there.
Yeah, so Denby drew a Sunscorched Desert.
Sunscorched Desert helps.
To 4 after the Hazaret, discarding another Earthshaker Kenra.
Sunscorched Desert helps.
But Denby is now 2 Ramenup Ruins. He can just activate Ramenup Ruins twice.
Yes, Denby's...
So Denby's just won the game on the back of drawing a Sunscourge Desert to deal the 1 extra point of damage.
So
Chris now digging for an answer. He's cycling his lands away. He's got a Chandra there.
Chandra helps. Chandra's another 2 points of damage. How much damage does he have here?
So he's turning everything sideways. He's got to block the Hydra, which is the biggest threat on the board. He's taking 8. A bunch from the other Thopters that are on the board too.
And there's the last 2 points of damage.
Oh my god. What? That's incredible.
That's a nice finish there.
Really good. Well spotted from Chris to see that he could put him to 2, even if Denby blocks the Hydra.
The biggest creature,
and then kept the Chandra back to play post-combat to just +1 and deal the last 2 points of damage. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible finish to that
finish
game.
There. I mean,
really
drawing the Sunscorched Desert shaved the whole turn off the clock.
So Denby could sack Ramenup Ruins end of turn, and then if he got to untap, just do it in upkeep and kill Chris, but the Chandra off the top.
Yeah, cycling into Chandra as well.
Cycling into the Chandra from his red-green cycle land.
Great finish to Chris Shah there. Well, congratulations to him moving on through the finals, and commiserations to Denby, though.
Sadness for us from WA. That's our guy. He's gone.
Our one great hope.
Yeah, we had so much money on Denby.
Don't say that.